Yo guys, what is up? Max in a Borderlands 4 video, and today we are doing the much requested Borderlands 4 build tier list. Now this is going to be different than the character tier list where we've rated characters' skill trees and stacked them up against each other. We are now going to be stacking up specific builds and how they pair against each other. Now, I did a similar video for Borderlands 3 and all the builds I made in Borderlands 3. However, in Borderlands 3, we rate the builds by doing a time trial run in a true takedown, and then we took the best builds from a true takedown and put them against a raid boss, where the average kill time on the raid boss, like Hemovorus, was like around a minute, and so you had a large disparity in certain builds. You know, some builds could kill the raid boss in like 30 seconds, some could do it in 2 minutes, some could do it in a minute and a few seconds. I don't think there's anything in the game right now that would have a large disparity in kill times. Most builds on this list can kill all the bosses in the game from 0.5 seconds to 4 seconds. So there isn't really anything to really push these builds and hammer them into. So in the future, I plan to do any sort of build tier list with a time trial run where we'll maybe do all of the builds in a vault and compare them, and then we could do them against Bloomreaper when that comes out, and then rank the builds with that. However, I just don't think there's hard enough content to really stack these builds against each other. So we're going to be going off of my personal preference, and a big part of my personal preference, I want to emphasize this, is how much do I want to hop on these builds and play them over and over and over again. Maybe there's a build on this list that has the potential to do a one-shot on a boss and do billions of damage, but it doesn't do it consistently. So I'm not going to rate that build very highly, even though it could do crazy damage. I'm going to be rating these builds personally off of my opinion on them and how consistent they are in both mobbing and bossing, and how much I want to jump on and play them. So fun factor is going to be a big thing for me. Consistency is going to be a big thing for me. And their ability to both mob and boss is going to be a big thing for me. I hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown. Let's get right into it. I do want to mention real quick that the character representation is not super even, which is interesting to me. I'm going to be honest, I've tried to be really even in my coverage of the Vault Hunters. However, as you can see, just putting them all in a row, we've got 4 Vex builds that I kind of maintain, 4 Harlowe builds that I kind of maintain. We've got 6 Amon builds that I'm rocking, and then we have 8 Rafa builds. I do think Rafa right now has the best build diversity simply because he has 3 really good skill trees. Harlow's blue tree falls flat, Amon's green tree falls flat, and Vex's red tree falls flat. So it's not crazy to see that Rafa has more build representation on this, just because I do think he's currently the most build diverse Vault Hunter in the game, and that he can do a lot of things with all of his different action skills and all of his different builds. Guys, real quick, this is not a sponsored segment or anything like that. The devs of the game called Carbon reached out to me. This is a sci-fi ARPG that they're working on. It's an indie project, and they're really trying to get funding so that they can make this game happen. There's currently a playable demo, kind of like a proof of concept that you can download on Steam to kind of get an idea for what this game is and what they're going for. They definitely have a lot of work to be done, but I can tell that this is a team of passionate devs that are trying to make their dream game come true, and they really need our help to help fund their Kickstarter. So I've told them that I would put this little segment in this video. If you guys are curious about the project or want to learn more, I'll leave a link down in the description. I'll also leave a link down to the Steam demo that you can download, and if you want to back their Kickstarter, that's totally up to you, but the space is definitely lacking in sci-fi ARPGs, and I think this one is definitely looking promising. So now let's do our rankings. Now, realistically, every build, I hope this doesn't come off wrong, but all of the builds that I've made can do all of the content in the game. There's no build that I've posted that isn't able to do the hardest bosses or the hardest mobbing content. Otherwise, I wouldn't have made it in the first place. So, realistically, all of these builds are, A to S tier. However, I'm going to try to be spacing them out. I don't think any of these builds are, D tier builds. But I really want to try to, have some differentiation so you guys can have an idea of, what maybe you might want to play. And really reserving builds for S tier that are my personal favorites that I want to play every day. Not necessarily the strongest builds. For example, Melee Rafa, highest damage build in the game right now. It does quintillions of damage. However, I don't really like melee, and if the boss dies in 1 second or if the boss dies in 0.5 seconds, it doesn't really make that much of a difference to me. So, like, for example, probably not going to be putting melee Rafa in S, even though it is technically the highest damage build on this list. So we're going to go character by character so you can kind of see the different Vault Hunters against each other. So we're starting with Wildfire Amon. I think this is an A-tier build. This is still one of my favorite builds to play on Amon. I personally am a huge status effect enjoyer. If you don't know what Wildfire Amon is, it's a mainly red tree build using electrical fire and things like the Stellium to proc massive shock dots, which then get your fire dot scaling. We can spread them with Maliwan enhancements. It does great boss damage with detonations. If you were using a spread launcher, you get a huge fire dot proc with Dragon's Breath. Detonate that for bossing. Stelliums will cover you for mobbing. It's really satisfying. You can also use the Moxie Sweet Embrace for the extra ricochets and the even more quality of life while mobbing. It's just a build that I think is really satisfying. It's really good at both mobbing and bossing. It really doesn't have many downsides, and I think it's definitely an A-tier build. The only downside is it is a dot build, and it is kind of requiring shock weapons, so not as strong against armor. However, just overall fantastic build. Next up, Whip Amon. I'm going to put this in C tier. I know a lot of people like this build. I personally find the whip-only gameplay pretty repetitive, and it also starts to hurt my hand after spamming the whip so many times. I wish you could just hold down the button and it would constantly whip, rather having to spam it like a lunatic. So not a huge fan of the build. However, it is very unique. It is one of the only action skill-only builds that I've posted. Next, we've got Hammer Amon. The hammers and the forge skills, I do need to update this build, but even with Raging Inferno, still a little inconsistent. They can do big damage. However, I still think his forge skills need some buffing. The Raging Inferno fix helps this a lot, and you can now get the hammers to come down and proc a Raging Inferno to get the double dip. But once again, it is inconsistent, and so not my favorite build, and putting it in C tier. Next, we've got the Infinite Ammo Amon build guide. Oh, this is tough. I think I'm going to put that in S tier. Right now, maybe it's recency bias, but this is my build guide that, if you're watching this, probably uploaded a day or two ago. That's kind of a use any weapon Amon build. It is very gear reliant. You do need good gear to make this work, similar to how Infinite Harlowe is. But once you get that good gear, it's really satisfying. You have solid survivability, ridiculous bossing, great mobbing. You can use any weapon, super versatile, and a lot of fun. Next, we've got Ordnance Amon. I think Ordnance Amon is probably Amon's strongest build. I'd put that up in S tier. Ordnance on Amon is just ridiculous. You have potentially top 2 mobbing in the entire game with a disc jockey on our most recent setup. It's ridiculous. You can one-shot all of the bosses. You overkill all of the bosses. You get a huge arsenal of just random ordnance that you can use with some particular stickouts that are great. Just think it's fantastic. And then lastly, we've got Boss Breaker Amon. This is the 2 billion damage Amon build. I'm going to putting in B tier once again, not because it's low damage, it's just because it's really just focused on bossing. It doesn't really do much mobbing. However, it's very, very silly, and it's probably going to be the build, if they don't nerf it, that I'm going to be bringing on Amon into Bloomreaper, just because of the obscene amount of damage that it can do. And that's currently my ranking of the Amon builds. I think Ordnance Amon and Infinite Amon, or Infinite Ammo Amon, are ridiculous. Wildfire Amon, niche, but really powerful. And then the kind of more super niche builds, not as a big fan of. Next up, we've got Rafa, and you probably already know where this is going. We'll see if I put these in order. But I'm gonna put Ranger Rafa up in S tier. This is easily one of my favorite builds in the game. It is just so good at everything. You're so hard to kill. It's one of the really tanky builds in the game. You're hard to kill. You do a ton of damage. You can use any weapon with 90% crit chance. Bossing, mobbing. I really don't think that there's many builds that are topping Ranger Rafa in just versatility. It really does not have any weakness, and it's a build that I constantly hop on. If I ever need to farm a drill site or anything, I am hopping on Ranger Rafa so much to farm any content in the game. Next, we've got Ricochet Rafa. Oh, I'm going to put Ricochet Rafa in A tier. It's a very niche build in that, like, you kind of have to use the Hot Slugger for mobbing. However, the Hot Slugger is one of the best weapons in the game, and I think it's probably the best on Ricochet Rafa and Bleed Vex are the two builds that I think really utilize that gun. It is a little bit of a bugged interaction that allows the Hot Slugger to be so broken on Ricochet Rafa. However, it hasn't been fixed yet, so it is what it is. Ricochet Rafa can also do, I'm probably going to update this build, but if you don't want to use a spread launcher for bossing, you can use a fire pot. The fire pot is perfect with the skill tree that's spec'd already for Ricochet Rafa. You just throw that, it'll delete any boss for you. It just augments our bossing even more. It's a very, very speedy build, tons of movement speed, really fun to play. Then we've got Splash and Dash. I really haven't been playing Splash and Dash or Overdrive Rafa ever since I made Ranger Rafa. I think Ranger Rafa is just a better version. While we don't get the extra splash damage, it's not really necessary, and I found myself to be downing myself a whole lot on Splash and Dash. I stopped playing it after a while because I kept killing myself, and so I moved on from that. Next, we've got Apophis Rafa, or like Shock Trooper Rafa. This was the like infinite underbarrel build where you could use your underbarrels and just like constantly spam tasers. This is a tough one. The thing is, it's very niche, and I don't play it all that much, but it is like realistically very strong. This would be definitely at the top of B tier for me personally. Probably potentially A, but I'm trying to be a little bit more conservative. The only thing is, I think Apophis Lance is a little bit annoying. I don't love it as much as his other things. However, the infinite underbarrel spam is very silly. It is very strong, but I do think it gets a little boring relatively quickly because there's only so many underbarrels you actually want to use with it. So I'll put it in B tier. Next, we've got AFK Rafa. This is an S tier build, even though, like, it can be a little boring, I guess, because you don't really do much during it. Sometimes that's really fun, and it's easily one of the strongest builds in the game. You could just sit back and watch while your Peacebreaker cannons have infinite duration, kill all of the bosses. It is also, in my opinion, probably a top 2 drill site farmer in the game in terms of the amount of speed that you can farm drill sites at. It is just silly. I'd probably technically put it above Infinite Ammo Amon right now. It's just pretty ridiculous. Infinite Ammo Amon, I think, is better bossing, but AFK Rafa has like very stupid mobbing ability. Very, very dumb. It is actually like, it probably is the best mobber in the game, actually. I'd put it above Ordnance Amon because you can't run out of ammo. But AFK Rafa, definitely S tier. Then we've got Mega Man Rafa. This was kind of a like one-shot Apophis Lance build. I think I'd put that technically in D tier just because it's very niche and it's very inconsistent. It can one-shot bosses, but you need to get the like random ricochet proc multiple times. And so not a build I'm going to be running, but it is very cool that you can make Apophis Lance one-shot all of the bosses in the game on UVH5 with a single shot. Then we've got Melee Rafa. I think Melee Rafa goes up in B tier. One-shots all the bosses in the game. Really strong. Big downside is it is a melee build, so I'm not going to be putting it quite in A tier personally just because of the amount of enemies that are annoying to fight with it. But technically Rafa's highest damage build. And then we've got Rafa-geddon or Grenade Rafa. I think this build is hilarious. I love it. It is really high grenade damage for bossing. If this was as good for mobbing as it is for bossing, I'd probably put it in the S tier. But it is hilarious seeing constant waterfall spams covering your entire screen. If you like dumb AoE, Rafa-geddon is great at it. Once again, only real downside is it does have a little bit of issues with survivability because when you're spamming the grenades, if you spam them too much, you will die. So you have to be careful of how much you're spamming your grenades. So it's not totally like thoughtless. However, it is just ridiculous in the amount of damage that it can put out. Next up, we've got our Vex builds. First up is Rocket Vex, who I'm going to be putting into B tier. Rocket Vex actually like very strong. You do need to be a little bit careful about potentially running out of your rocket ammo. However, it's a very fun build. You can get the rockets to proc big bleeds, and you do get like an infinite ordnance style playstyle on Vex, and she hits really hard. And she's got really easy sustain as long as you're paying attention, as long as you're shooting out your like blast, you can keep up your infinite ammo on your Vex. You get some good survivability, get some good damage. Not a build that I'm gravitating towards personally. That's the only reason I'm putting it lower. I'm once again trying to be very conservative with our tiers. But if you like the ordnance playstyle, really, really strong build. Next, we've got Watt Witch. I gotta put this up in S tier. This build is it's tough placing the S tier builds. We'll just leave it there for now. I'll organize everything at the end of the video. But Watt Witch Vex, really fun build. Infinite ammo, infinite survivability, amping every single shot. Use any weapon. Great bossing, great mobbing. The damage that this build does with a bod is so dumb. That's really, really dumb. One of the best bod using builds besides basically like Bullet Witch. But really, really strong. I enjoy it, and it's a pretty unique playstyle that allows you to do really cool things with the Watts for Dinner. Every build uses the Watts for Dinner, but I think a Teen Witch build uses it probably the best out of any character in the game, so really like that. Next, we've got Blade Witch. Oh, man, this is going to be tough with Vex. I really like Vex builds. I think I gotta put Bleed Witch up in S2, honestly. Bleed is just so good. It's so strong. You can use a ton of different weapons. Jacob's weapons in general feel really good. If you're using Jacob's weapons, you can use like Bounce Pass to get good mobbing. The bossing is gross. You could, shoot anything with an order sniper rifle, a spread launcher. You can even use like a bod with stickies if you want. Proc massive bleeds. It is a very, very versatile build. It hits really hard, and is not overly gear dependent besides like having a good Scion class mod. So I think I'd have to put that up at S tier. Oh, fuck. I said I wasn't going to put many builds in S tier. I think I have to put Bullet Witch up in S tier too, to be honest. Love this build. It is one of the most unique builds in the game, scaling your damage off of your HP. The only thing that I could see potentially a reason to move this down into A tier is because you can only basically use the bod and like the Affinity XXL and other sniper rifles. However, sniper rifles happen to be like some of the strongest weapons in the game. If you look at my like updated Borderlands 4 tier list, a lot of the top weapons in S tier are snipers, so Bullet Witch is in a great spot with that. I think it's one of the most unique builds in the game. I really do. I think I do have to place it up in S tier, and it's got good survivability because you're scaling your damage off of your health, so you have a ton of like life steal. I'll put that up in S. Minion Vex, I'm gonna put in C tier. I just don't like minion playstyle. I was expecting Vex to be my least favorite character because of the minions. I don't focus on minions because I don't enjoy the playstyle. I like to do the damage. Even though Minion Vex is now like one-shotting bosses with rocket launchers, I just don't enjoy that personally. I like to be the one doing the damage, so I'll be putting Minion Vex down in C tier. Next, we get to Harlowe. Now, Harlowe is the character that I main. However, I am now looking at this, and I realize that I haven't made many build guides for her, and that's simply because, like, she's got really, really strong, powerful synergies that, like, a lot of her skill trees are like really hard to compete with, such as like why would you use anything besides neutron capture in her red tree, and like why would you use anything besides halo in her green tree. And so I now that I'm looking at this, I definitely plan to make some more Harlowe builds, even if they might not be like the top-notch best builds. I do think there's a lot more experimentation that we could do on Harlowe. But build guides, Half-Life Harlowe. This I said I was going to be conservative with S tier. I don't know if I can be, though. Half-Life Harlowe is gross. It's, I think, like, from what I hear about people playing my Harlowe builds, one of the, like, least played of the three main ones that I've posted for her. However, if you've played this build, you know how stupid strong it is. It is just dumb the amount of damage that you can do, especially if you get the very, very niche specific gear that you need for it. This is like up there with one of the most gear specific, hardest to put together builds. I can't really rate it based off of that though, however, but when you do have the gear, you just one tap entire screens of enemies with shared dots. Your dots are hitting multiple millions of damage. You have enough to one-shot every boss in the game, and your mobbing is really good, and your survivability is really good, and I like dot builds, so I gotta put Half-Life Harlowe in S tier. It is probably not my favorite Harlowe build, but it is undoubtedly really good. Infinicrit Harlowe has got to go. I'd probably put that at currently top S tier. It's my favorite build in the game, personally. I love Infinicrit. You use any weapon, you do so much damage, you have so much survivability, you have so much fire rate, and you get to play a little mini game constantly of just clicking this button that constantly gives you more damage. It's a really engaging build. It's a really fun build to play. It's made me fall in love with Harlowe even more. I really can't get enough of it. I don't think it's technically the highest damage build in the game. In fact, I do think Neutron Capture Harlowe puts out a little bit more damage than Infinicrit. However, Infinicrit is just like the most cozy playstyle. Then we've got Chroma Accelerator Harlowe. I gotta put that in S tier as well. The only thing about Chroma Accelerator Harlowe is I don't play it as much just because I find it, after a while of playing the build, a little bit annoying to constantly need to shoot my Chroma Accelerator in order to deal damage. A lot of these other builds don't have large conditionals on them being able to do damage. They just get to do damage all the time, constantly. Chroma Accelerator Harlowe does really ridiculous damage. However, there is a setup for it, and a lot of these other builds don't have setup. So I'm going to be putting that probably at the bottom of my S tier. It is definitely an S tier build. However, it is a little bit more annoying to play than some of the other ones, personally, if you don't like that. Although it is very fun to shoot a nuke out constantly. And then lastly, we've got Flash Freeze Harlowe. If you're wondering what the heck this is, it's definitely not D tier. But Flash Freeze Harlowe is the variant of Infinicrit that I need to update again. That is, instead of going full green tree, you go green-blue to pick up the ability that whenever you deal damage with an action skill to freeze enemies, it allows you to perma-freeze entire screens of enemies, and is very, very solid. Not as good as Infinicrit, personally. I do like going full green tree more. I'll probably be putting it up at the top of like B tier. I think is probably a pretty solid place for it. Very, very fun, and I definitely need to get back to it. A little unfair to put it on this list because it's definitely one of those builds that I like haven't updated yet. But that seems to be our tier list. Let me see if I need to like rearrange anything here. So that is our tier list. Once again, this is subject to change. Gearbox updates and patches their game very, very often, and so I plan on having this updated in the future, and I also would like to do like time trials for this in the future, where instead of like just giving you my opinions on the build, we'll like actually race them through the vault and stuff like that. Hopefully when we have a raid boss, we can really put them to the test. But just giving a count, we've got Harlowe with 3 builds in S tier, Vex with 3 builds in S tier, Rafa with 2 builds in S tier. I'm actually surprised by that. And Amon with 2 builds in S tier. Guys, is going to do it for the build tier list. I hope you found this helpful. I hope you enjoyed the video. Once again, in the future, I plan to have this be less like me opinion based and more so like fact based, where we're going to like take the builds into like Bloomreaper and like put them to the test against actual like hard bosses to get times, and then we can do like a timed tier list basically for what the like best build is. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't look too much into like where they are placed in the tier list of like this build is better than this build, because honestly it's kind of impossible and I'm losing my brain over it. But a lot of cool builds to play in Borderlands 4. If you've been playing a build for a while and you're getting bored of it, maybe check out one of these other builds. There really is so many cool things to try out, so much gear to farm, and I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll catch y'all in the next one, guys. Take care. Peace.